Hey you, what up? Maryam here, welcome to my channel or welcome back. In today's video, I am going to show you my updated current brow routine that I've developed in 2020, but I think this trend is here to stay and I think this DIY laminated boy brow look is definitely going to make its way into 2021. It's a hot trend and it's actually pretty easy to do. So for today's video, you're only gonna need 3 products: a brow gel, preferably this one, a brow filling pen, preferably this one, and a concealer of your choice, but this is totally optional. I'm gonna walk you through the steps how I achieve this very thick laminated boy brow look at home. So keep watching if you are interested in this technique. Remember to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you can see all of my Wednesdays and Sundays videos. And now let's get to it. My current brow routine, the DIY laminated boy brow. Here we come. Oh, and by the way, shout out to Jared Bailey who actually taught me this technique. All right. So we are zoomed in nice and close. These are my brows without anything on them. This is what they look like. Gonna brush them out so you could really see the shape. My brows, I think, are pretty unique, but you know, all eyebrows are unique. But what makes mine unique is that the hairs are actually pretty coarse. So they are super duper straight. Asian brows, they actually stick out at the corners. They don't like glide and lay on top of my skin. So I always have to make sure I glue them down. But the difference between my brows and like actual Asian brows is that my brows are pretty dense, I would say. So it's kind of like a mixed brow. Let's just call it a Central Asian brow. And now this brow is not a twin. No, my brows are not twins. This one, the hairs don't really grow up. They actually naturally grow down. You see how that just like lays? And then the tail end of this eyebrow is crazy. They're just like sparse and like super spiky. And like, I don't even know where this comes from. It's very werewolfy. In order for me to get the brow laminated or bushy boy brow look that I've been desiring in 2020, I literally need a very strong brow gel. For today's video, I'm gonna be using Benefit's 24-hour brow setter. This guy right here that I've been loving. It's a really strong, gripping type of brow gel that allows your hair to be glued to your skin. You can also probably use hair gel. A lot of people have been recommending the Got To Be by Schwarzkopf Glued Styling Spiking Glue. You can use that one as well. It's only like $5 at Target, but because I like to collect makeup, Lee likes to call it hoard, but I say collect. I can't have a lot of big things, so I'd rather go for like a small little container like this rather than a big old styling gel, you know? So for me, this works. I also really like the spoolie in this brow gel. This is the product that has been tried and true for me. So anyway, what I like to do first and foremost is I like to start with a clean face. Right now my face isn't clean, I already have my foundation on, but generally speaking, I like to do my brows this way before I do my foundation. The reason being is because I don't want this product to get mixed with my foundation, then I feel like it gets dirty. But for today's video, I removed the foundation around my brow. You can probably see my true color. So what I'm gonna start doing is brushing these brows up. Doesn't matter which side of the spoolie you use. There's a long bristle side, there's a short bristle side, and then when you actually turn it to the side, it's super duper narrow, so kind of like a paddle, which is why I like it. What I'm gonna do first is grab a bunch of product. I'm just gonna swirl it onto this little spoolie, and I'm gonna saturate these brows with this product. I'm gonna go kind of like against the grain or against the hair growth, just to make sure that there's literally product in between the hairs. And as you can see, once I start applying product in between the hairs, they immediately kind of start standing up on their own. So then once you've allowed that product to get into those brow hairs, what you're gonna wanna do is kind of use the paddle side to brush all these hairs up and also press them onto the skin. The front part of the brow is really easy for me to achieve because my hairs are a little bit finer there, but then once I get to the edges or once I get to the end tail of the brow, it gets a lot harder because these hairs for some reason are a lot more unruly, so it takes a little bit more time and a little bit more effort. But basically this is what my brow looks like once it's all brushed up and glued up to my forehead. Just like that. So now at this point, it's gonna start feeling almost a little hard. Before it gets a chance to really get glued down, I'm gonna use the short bristle side, this side right here, to kind of move these hairs in a shape or in the direction of the shape that I want for my brow. So although this was a lot easier to do at the front of the brow, for me it becomes a lot harder from the arch to the tail end, but it's not impossible. I'm actually gonna take my tweezers from Anastasia Beverly Hills. This has a really sharp edge, and I'm kind of gonna almost cut them into place. So basically I'm just maneuvering these brow hairs, and I'm keeping this top line pretty straight. Now with this method, the brows always come out looking different every single time, just depending on how good your technique is that day. So right now that I'm doing it on camera, I'm not loving it nearly as much as when I do it on any regular day off camera. Why is that? Like this part is just like not gluing down for some reason, and it's just like not sticking as straight as I want it to. That's okay. I'm gonna continue manipulating it, and I'm gonna continue gluing it down until I'm satisfied. Now for some of you, this might be quite a process, and you might say that, you know, soap brows are a lot easier, but let me tell you, soap don't work on these wolfies. No ma'am. These coarse Asian hair strands are just too straight, and soap is not strong enough for them. Trust me, I've tried it. And sure, it may work for like 5 minutes, but the minute they begin to remove from the actual skin, my brows start looking like a wet dog. So that's not a cute look for me. I don't do it. Anyway, at this point, I'm kind of satisfied with the way that this brow is lifted. Now, look at the difference of the thickness between this brow and this brow. It's actually kind of remarkable. Also, because this brow is lifted, it's kind of giving my eye a bit of an eye lift. So I have a lot more lid space here, so I can play around with eyeshadow, and I can do a lot more looks. I'm gonna move on to my second brow, and I'm gonna basically do the same thing. All right, so it looks like this brow is pretty glued down. I'm just gonna use that short bristle side to move these brows into place. Again, this is a bit of a process for me, but depending on the thickness of your hair strands, this might not be a process for you. Like my sister, for example, has much finer brow hairs, so whenever I do this look on her, it's so easy to manipulate the hairs. But her hair strands are actually a lot longer than mine, so she ends up having like double the width of the brow. So we kind of have to be careful. Now, another important thing, of course, is to make them match. Right now, it probably looks like they're not really matching, but that's honestly the actual shape and length of my individual brow hairs on either brow. So although they may not necessarily match too well right now, I'm gonna perfect the shape in the next step. For my next step, again, I'm using Benefit. I'm using their Microfilling Pen that has this really cool 3-prong fork-like type of marker. And so what I like to do with this pen is basically fill in any gaps and make these two brows match. So I'm gonna start with my lead brow here, and it's my lead brow because it's actually my favorite brow. So basically I just added a few strokes to the bottom of the brow, and I'm kind of imagining like a really straight line underneath the brow. And so I'm basically filling in from that imaginary line through the brow. And now here I may want to just add like lighter strokes, maybe just tap that out a bit, kind of like that. Now the shade that I'm using is deep brown, but I also have a light brown. And with the light brown, what I like to do is work on the top. I don't always do this, but for the sake of this video, I'll show you the maximum of what I do with these brows. Here is the final first brow. Now moving on to the second brow, that looks good, but just a little naked compared to this one. I'm gonna try to like really let you see what I'm doing here. This brow, the hairs start a little bit higher than here. What I like to do is start filling them in a little bit lower. Again, imagining that very straight line here, kind of like that, not too bad. And then I'm gonna take my light brown and I'm gonna perfect the shape on the top. So I'm almost just like adding strokes sporadically wherever I feel that this brow needs it in order to look more like this one. And then I'm seeing here in my monitor that this brow needs to come a little bit more close in. So I'm just gonna add like a smidge of that here. All right, that is looking really, really rather full and rather clean. I'm gonna show you another trick that I don't often do, but you can do if you want. I'm gonna use my Tarte Shape Tape, grab it on a flat little brush, and kind of just clean up underneath this brow. So say your imaginary line wasn't as perfect as you had hoped, this is going to help with that. My personal opinion, I think this step is a little extra, unless of course you're doing full glam. But if you have much finer or much lighter brows than I do, this may be a necessary step. Then I'm just gonna take this Rare Beauty angled brush. This one is used for concealer. I'm just gonna blend this out so that the line isn't super harsh. I'm gonna kind of like mute the line just a little bit. like that. I'm also gonna go over the top just a little bit. This will also help you get rid of any excess glue that might be on your top lid. All right, but this is essentially the look. Now you can tell from the side that these brows are totally and utterly glued to my forehead and to my face. They're not sticking out. They're like super duper flat. It's almost like I used a glue stick. So now typically I wouldn't make them as thick as this. But for today's video, I really want to show you like the maximum of what you can do with this type of technique. So in order to balance it out, I'm just gonna add some falsies because now I'm feeling like the rest of my face is just a little too bare for these brows. I'm gonna use these two face lashes. Boom. And boom. This is the look. Here is the after. All right, and this is what the brows look like on my face once we've zoomed out. I feel like sometimes the close-up can distort the features. It makes the face look a lot bigger and wider than it really is. But this I think is a little bit more accurate, and it kind of shows you the balance between my brows and the size of my forehead, which also I think this laminated brow look or the bushy upright boy brow look makes your forehead visually a little bit smaller looking because it's taking up some of the forehead real estate. Duh. Another reason why I love this look. I know like the thicker brow trend is in, and the fact that you can easily manipulate your brows to look so much thicker than what they really are by just using some brow gel and some makeup is honestly remarkable, and it's awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something. I hope you get to try this technique. There's levels to this technique, and also depends on your brow shape, on your brow hairs type, how long they are, how sparse they are, but depending on what you want to do, your look will be individual to you. I encourage you guys to try it. If you try it, definitely tag me on my Instagram so I could see it and like it. And with that, it's time for me to zoom on out so that you can check out my next two videos. One that you may like and my most recent one. See you! Mwah!